Determine the left-sided limit and the right-sided limit in the two-sided limit as x approaches 1 of 2 minus 3x divided by x squared minus 2x plus 1. Each of these involves the limit as x approaches 1 of 2 minus 3x divided by x squared minus 2x plus 1. The first thing to do is try plugging a 1 in for each of the x's. That will give a 2 minus 3 times 1 divided by 1 squared minus 2 times 1 plus 1. That'll give a 2 minus 3 times 1 is a minus 3 divided by 1 squared is 1 minus 2 times 1 is minus 2 plus 1. A 2 minus 3 is a negative 1. A 1 minus 2 is a negative 1 plus 1 is a 0. The 0 in the denominator is not actually a 0 since x is only approaching 1, it never reaches 1. But a limit result of a non-zero number divided by 0 is a positive infinity or negative infinity. The sign of the infinity often depends on the side the limit approaches from, so we will have to work out each of the one-sided limits separately. We have the left-sided limit indicated by the negative superscript on the 1 of the 2 minus 3x divided by x squared minus 2x plus 1. And the right-sided limit indicated by the positive superscript on the 1 of the 2 minus 3x divided by x squared minus 2x plus 1. Let's start with the left-sided limit. The first thing to do is to factor the denominator so that we can see the factors that are making 0 in the denominator. The denominator is a trinomial quadratic, so it'll factor into an x and x, two numbers that multiply to be positive 1 that add to be negative 2. That'll be a negative 1 and a negative 1. Since they match, another way to write this is x minus 1 quantity squared. The factor that's making the 0 in the denominator is x minus 1. There's actually two of them, so it's factors this time that are making 0. We're the left-sided limit, so x is approaching 1 from the left side. It's less positive than 1, like 0.99. If that were plugged in for the x here, that will give a negative number. But it's approaching to 0, so it can be written as a negative 0. 1 can plug in for all other x's. The result will be 2 minus 3 times 1 divided by, and x minus 1 is going to be replaced with, it will be a negative number but approaching 0, so negative 0. And then squared. In the numerator, that will give 2 minus 3 over a negative 0 squared, which will be a positive due to the square, and then 0 squared is 0. And so the result is 2 minus 3, which is a negative 1 over a positive 0. A negative over a positive is negative. A non-zero over 0 is an infinity, and that comes out to negative infinity. There's the result of the left-sided limit. The right-sided limit will work out in a similar fashion. It will also require factoring the denominator. It does factor exactly the same. And since it has two matching factors, it can be written as the quantity squared. The factor that's making 0 in the denominator is x minus 1. For the right-sided limit here, I'm approaching 1. The right side means more positive than 1, like 1.01. If that's plugged in for x minus 1, that will be a positive number, but it'll be approaching 0. It can be indicated by a positive 0. 1 can be plugged in for all other x's. The x minus 1 will be replaced with a positive 0. 2 minus 3 times 1 is a minus 3 divided by a positive squared is still a positive. 0 squared is 0. 2 minus 3 is a negative 1 over a positive 0. A negative over a positive is a negative. and a non-zero over 0 is an infinity. And there's the result of the right-sided limit. The two-sided limit depends on the results of the two one-sided limits. They match each other here. They're both negative infinity. So the two-sided limit up here will be that same result and also be negative infinity. And there's the results of the three different limits.